Welcome to the Solo for Life podcast. Today I have Deadforge. If you want to go ahead and explain yourself and your YouTube ambitions.
Okay, yeah. It's me, Deadforge. Yeah, and YouTube ambitions. Yeah, so my goal is to just kind of create conversation around video games. That's kind of the goal of my podcast, which is the Gaming Bounty Board podcast. And then as far as my YouTube, it's just kind of taking my opinions on video games and, occasionally defending the underdog and putting that into video format and hopefully connecting with other people and having a discourse around that. And that's mostly it.
Very nice. And what do you think has received the most impact in terms of your video essays and people just coming together and just commenting on your videos? And what really has surprised you the most on something you've put out there?
See, as far as things that people have interacted with the most and come together and talked about, probably. Let's see on my videos. I'd say between my interview with Rafael Colantonio and my video on Mad Max discussing skyboxes, both got a lot of discussion around them and a lot of interaction with my community and other communities. And I think a lot of my essay videos have been able to connect with people pretty nicely. But there's also, it's sometimes difficult, to. I don't think many people comment on things as much as you would think that they would, and it's hard to get conversation going, especially when you're a smaller channel like myself. And yeah, and then as far as something that surprised me, I would also go as far as to say that Mad Max video that I did surprised the hell out of me on just how well it's done. I think it's around 500 or 600 views or something like that. Because the crazy part is that I'd put a lot more work into several videos prior to that one. Like way more work, way more research and time and so on. And that video was just me one day. I was like, hey, I really think the skybox in Mad Max is one of the best skyboxes in any video game ever. And I still believe that to this day. And I don't think people appreciate them enough. So I made a script that's, the video itself is like 5 to 6 minutes long. I made a script really quickly. I got the video done in like a day or two, and I put it out, and it just like blew up somehow. I don't know what happened. It was like a right time, right place, right time kind of thing. Diamond in the rough. People just happen to find it, and it's still getting views to this day, and it's really cool. I've had like a video I did on Clive and Wrench. I got a review copy for that. Which was mind-blowing for me. It's like something I dreamt of as a kid, was getting a review copy for a game. And I did, and then that also is still getting views to this day quite a bit. It's like 700 something, I think, and I'm still impressed by the fact that still keeps getting views.
Very nice. I'd look at that Mad Max Skybox video. I must have totally missed it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would go check out my I have a playlist that's all my essays and stuff. But if you like the Mad Max video, I have a few others on like Far Cry Primal and Prey 2017 that I recommended to you. I have a few different videos like that if you like the Mad Max one, you'll probably be interested in as well.
Okay, and just to be sure, this is the Mad Max that came out like maybe a year or two after the movie Fury Road.
Yeah. Mad Max, the game that came out in 2015.
2015. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to buy that one again. I never did finish it. I got to a part where I had to drive too far, and I was like, I'll
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. It kind of sticks you to that Ubisoft formula, but it deviates in enough ways that I think it's pretty refreshing.
I remember enjoying the combat and the vehicle
Yeah.
mechanics.
Oh yeah, the hand-to-hand combat and the vehicle combat is really like visceral, and it's awesome. It feels great. It looks great. I still think that game, not only did it not get enough credit for what it did, it also was just kind of like similar to my video on it, was kind of a right place, right time. Just no one could have predicted how good it was going to be.
Hmm.
But it kind of flew under the radar because I think most people assumed that it was a movie tie-in, but it's not really.
It doesn't your character get older throughout the story? From what I remember, I think you grow a beard.
Yeah, you do. You grow a beard. Yeah, you can modify it here and there if you want.
Okay, yeah, I saw that on the shelf actually yesterday. I should have grabbed it.
Yeah,
But all
yeah. You can
right.
probably grab it pretty cheap these days.
Oh yeah, I actually saw Deadpool yesterday for PS3. I should have grabbed that too because you can't get that
Yeah.
digitally anymore, from what I understand.
No, no, no. They quit. You couldn't. You can't get that game digitally or any other Activision Marvel game as of like 2015 or 16 or
Mm.
17 maybe, somewhere around there. It's been a while. I actually had a copy of Deadpool before any of that happened on both Xbox 360 and on Xbox One. The Xbox One version of the game actually it goes for like almost full price, or anywhere between like 40 and 60. But for some reason the PS4 version's valued higher, and so like there's even a local game store near me, and the PS4 copy, like unopened, is like $100.
Wow.
And that wasn't even a popular game. So it doesn't even have to be a game that people liked for it to be crazy prices, just because if something like that happens, like the recent stuff with Spec Ops The Line that just happened, which is one of these similar scenarios where a publisher loses the license to something because they ran out of time or they decided they weren't going to use the license anymore and they lose it. So then they no longer have the rights to sell the game that they created by losing license, so then they take it off store shelves as far as digital stores. So the only way you can get a copy of Spec Ops: The Line now is eBay, Amazon, or your local game store. You're going to get it cheaper at your local game store because in the period of 24 hours, it went from being $20 to $200.
Jeez, I was wondering about that. When I
Yeah.
heard it was taken off, I was like, man, I probably should
Uh-huh.
grab me a few copies.
Yeah, I wanted. Man, I wish I would have pulled the trigger and bought the copy that I was thinking about getting a little while back because I went to go look at the exact one on eBay and it's like $200.
Wow.
And I'm like, son of a bitch, why?
It isn't
It'll
Futurama?
go down eventually,
Oh
though.
yeah, yeah. Isn't Futurama one of the rarest PS2 games?
Yeah, yeah. The Xbox and PS2 version are both quite rare, and it's not even that they're not even. I don't even know why they're technically rare because they're not hard to find. Like they're all over eBay, but they are rare in the sense that there's probably not that many people like who want to talk about it who own it because you can't get it with it being like $300 or something.
One game I was really surprised I couldn't find very often was Rocket Power Beach Bandits. I looked everywhere in my local
Yeah.
stores and couldn't find a single copy. I had to eventually buy one on eBay, and it didn't cost that much. It was maybe $10, but
Yeah, sometimes those games like sometimes it's games that I mean a lot of times games that were not that popular. Sometimes they gain a cult following or they get pulled from digital stores or whatever or production stopped on them or something weird and they get just a crazy hike in price or they go down in price. It's just always it's dependent on so many factors that's ever changing at all times. It's kind of like the stock market or something, you know, it's always changing. It could change at any moment. And it's really weird. But there's a lot of niche kind of games like that that just are weird prices and you're like nobody even bought this game. That's why I can't find it anywhere. Now you're over here selling it for like $300.
wow. Well,
Yeah.
I got 10 questions related to Dark Souls. I sent
Yeah.
it to you before the podcast, and feel free to throw these
course.
questions back at me if you want to.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll start with the first one. What's your favorite weapon in Dark Souls?
This is gonna be a funny one because it's not gonna be what anyone expects, and it's kind of boring, I guess. But it's the Uji Katana.
Nice.
Yeah, the Uji Katana is my favorite weapon in Dark Souls. And before you even ask the second question, which is what is your favorite reoccurring weapon, it's also the Uji Katana. So I'm just a huge fan of the Uji Katana. I go for it like my first playthrough I got it, and like every time I play the game I pretty much go for it. But if I'm not doing a dex build, I don't really focus on it. I still grab it just for shits and giggles because you can kill the merchant at the very beginning of the game and you can grab the Uji Katana early on. It's one of the most powerful weapons for like over half of that game if you
Yeah,
upgrade it.
I don't know why you would.
It's
Oh,
so
sorry.
powerful.
I don't know
You're good.
why you would. Buy it from Shiva of the East if you could just get it from the Undead Merchant. Because can't you just pretty much just buy all that stuff?
You can buy all the useful items from him, like the keys and
Yeah.
all the other things that he offers, and any other weapons and armor that you want that he has, if you want the chainmail, which I never cared about, then yeah, then after that you can just walk up behind him, backstab him, hit him a couple times, dead. You're good to go.
Trying to
There's
get
no point in the other way. The
getting
other
the
way is a lot harder.
yeah, getting to Shivia of the East as a merchant is actually quite out of the way because you got to first
Yeah.
get what is it, 20,000 souls just to open up that door, or you have to fight
Yeah.
the Hydra from the back, and then you can go up there and
Yeah.
then join the Covenant, and then after you finally meet Shiva, you have to then go to Blighttown.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's an absolute pain. Yeah. Also, I think I can't remember how you get the Ujigatana in Dark Souls 2. I think I forget how you get it, but you can get it relatively early on. I just can't remember where.
Sold by Steady Hand McDuff.
Is that the only way of getting it? I thought you could get it earlier.
That's the only one I see. For 5,000 souls, once the Dull Ember is acquired, limit of 1 per playthrough.
Maybe that's it. Okay, cool. So I guess you had to buy it in that one, but yeah, I don't think I used it as much in that one actually. Now that I think about it, probably for that reason that you had to buy it. But I played a lot of Dark Souls 1 and a lot of Dark Souls 3. I did play a good bit of Dark Souls 2. I've beaten it a few times, but I didn't play it nearly as much as 1 and 3. I have a friend that goes by Sputnik. He's a huge Dark Souls 2 fan, and he would probably kill me for saying that because I prefer Dark Souls 3 over 2, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wish I could remember more about like which weapons were in there. I do think it's a fun one. The what is that one magic sword called? The Moonlight Sword. Great.
Yeah.
That's in like every game that they've made. Like every single one is in there.
It wasn't in Sekiro, was it?
I don't know. Probably not. But
I don't think so.
as far as the Soulsborne games,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, Sekiro is a glitch in the system for them, but also a kind of return to roots.
It was definitely an interesting
yeah,
game.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one. Ujigatana, yeah, I love that sword so much. I don't know what it is. I love it.
Very nice. So yeah, applying that one to a playthrough is is pretty simple. You just simply kill the undead merchant once you're done with him, and you just move along.
I even used the Ujigatana a shit ton in Elden Ring.
Oh yeah.
Until I got the what is it called? The katana that does blood damage.
It's actually a starting weapon in Elden Ring.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I started as the samurai character.
Other than that, it can be found in the Death Touch catacombs.
Yeah. I can't remember what the heck it's called. But anyway, there's the katana that does blood damage, that does the whole where you throw blood magic at them.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh,
forget what it's called.
Rivers of Blood.
Yeah, Rivers of Blood. There we go. I love that thing. Yeah.
All right. So you pretty much just hang on to that for the entire playthrough.
Ujigatana?
Yes.
I mean, I use other things as well, but yeah, it's most like my first playthrough of Dark Souls 1 and 3. I did use it pretty much the entire game. Yeah. It took me all the way to the end of the game in both of those games, and I don't think I really used it much in 2. And then it took me through a lot of Elden Ring actually.
Yeah, the great thing
Until
about
I swapped over to Rivers of Blood.
the great thing about the Ujigatana in Dark Souls is that the weapon set has a great range in terms of just attacking. Like with the Capra Demon, it's very useful for attacking those dogs instead of just using something like a halberd where it does straight thrust and you could easily miss because those dogs jump around a lot. Now I was thinking about that earlier because the weapon I really love to use is scimitar, and I'll use that all the way through. And it has a great reach and great angles, and it just handles the Capra Demon so well with catching those dogs.
I really like the Drake sword as well that you get from the Drake's tail.
I don't think I've ever used that.
Really?
Yeah, I've retrieved it before, but
okay.
I think I've only done it once. I believe you had to do it for the platinum, and that was pretty much it. I never go out of my way to get it.
Yeah, I mean it's overpowered as hell. I like wiped the floor with Gravelord Nito my first playthrough with that thing. Um,
Can you upgrade it? I'm
it's
trying to remember if you
yeah,
can. Can you? Okay, for
yeah,
some reason I
yeah.
thought maybe the scaling was bad or something. It was either you couldn't upgrade or you couldn't scale with it very well.
It has a. It's like it's not really a dex or strength build. It's kind of like just a middle ground kind of weapon. But so its scaling not like crazy great, but it's pretty overpowered for a while once you get it. It
Okay.
doesn't. It kind of falls off like sooner than the Uji Katana does. But at the start, it would technically do more damage than the Uji Katana for a little bit.
So you said that you like switch weapons. Are there certain bosses that work well with other weapons other than the Uji Katana for you?
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say so. No, I'd say the Uji Katana works good for everything.
Okay.
Um, honestly.
I didn't know there was
I
a
mean,
very particular
I've
boss, that had like a.
no, I don't think there was one where I ever had to really swap that would make much of a difference. I've always ran Ujigatana with a heater shield or an equivalent later on, like the Silver Knight shield. That's pretty lightweight and really strong. It's kind of like what I always did, my main playthrough and stuff. I mean, of course, I've changed it up as I've the other playthroughs, like playing more of like a strength character, like a bulky, character, a fast ninja type character, dual wielding weapons and stuff like that. I did a lot of that in Dark Souls 2. I did a lot of dual wielding in that game. So, yeah, I change it up, but like a lot of the first playthroughs, a lot like that.
Hmm.
Like Dark Souls 3, I always go and kill the dude with the Uji Katana that's right next to the Firelink Shrine area.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a very interesting way to get it.
yeah, yeah. He's also a pain in the ass if you don't know how to fight him.
Oh yeah, yeah. Definitely want to parry. If you
Yeah,
he because he
for
could.
sure.
Yeah. But all right. We'll go ahead and move on to the second one. What's your favorite reoccurring weapon in the Front Suffer lineup? And I guess I can probably guess what this one is.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. I said before you asked the second question.
Yeah.
It's also the Uji Katana. Yeah.
All right. So we'll move on then. So number 3, what's your favorite boss in Dark Souls?
Yeah, favorite boss in Dark Souls, man. I'm gonna have to give that one to either Artorias or Nito.
Nice.
I don't think Nito is necessarily a good boss fight, but I think he's a cool boss fight.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Presentation.
I really, yeah, I really like Gravelord Nito. I like, I'm gonna have to say, like, I really like just the whole process of getting to him, kind of, and it's challenging, and he's like kind of a hard fight, but he's not too bad compared to others. But yeah, he's just a really cool looking fight. But I would say probably my all time favorite in the whole game is probably, if you're counting DLC, is probably Artorias of the Abyss.
Okay. Uh,
Um, that's yeah, he's just cool as hell, hard as hell. Just it's a good time. I like it.
so which attack of his do you like the most?
I mean, from a pure scale, like him just like fucking lunging across the map and just trying to like plunge into you is pretty cool. But it's also the most annoying thing that he does.
I love counting his somersaults. That's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's like he just bounces across the arena, man. Like he's crazy.
Do you let him buff or do you interrupt his buffing?
I try not to let him buff, but man, that fight was a pain for me. It took me a long time to fight him the first time. It was a tough fight. I love his armor though. His armor's good. I like his armor.
Oh, do you like the
Um,
arena? Would you change the arena?
No, I think the arena works fine. I think the arena is pretty good for his fight. I mean, it's kind of open, and that's kind of the point because you want to keep your distance to a degree from him, so that you can dodge out of his lunging attack. But if you get hit by it, you're pretty screwed.
Yeah, I love the opening cutscene for him too. I remember when
Oh, dude, it's so good.
yeah, it's so memorable. And I remember when I first saw it, I'm like, wait a minute, that looks like something from Demon Souls with the penetrator.
Yeah. It's a cool fight. And I would almost say, actually, like if we were talking base game, actually over Nito, I would actually say that I actually really like the Ornstein and Smo fight.
Hmm.
Most people absolutely hate it, say it's like the hardest thing ever, and blah blah. It's like I never had that opinion. I never felt that Ornstein and Smo were that bad. I mean, you fight them together and do as much damage as you can to one, and once the other one gets larger, then they fight the same way. You just got to change your approach. It's actually easier to fight Ornstein last than it is Smo, but
Yeah,
it's
see,
up to you, I guess.
one thing I hate about the fight is having to wait for opportunities so long. And,
Yeah.
of course, you can use the pillars to your advantage to block Smo off or
Yeah.
whatever one you're blocking off. Because
Yeah.
I usually go for killing Ornstein first and then finding Smo in the end.
Yeah.
Because I don't like being blinded. I like being able to see where Ornstein is. Also, Ornstein has this charge attack that pauses and just rushes off without any warning. And so
Yeah.
there are a lot of aspects of the fight that I just don't care for. And it's just, like I said, mentioned before, just having to wait around, just like, oh, I hope Smo, sits back for a little bit so I can
Yeah.
get a hit on Ornstein.
Between fighting Ornstein in 3 games, I've pretty much got his everything down.
Yeah, I mean,
He's also in 2 and 3.
it's great when I'm fighting Ornstein by himself. It's just great, being able to attack in between wind-ups and stuff like that. It's just, sometimes Smo just comes out of nowhere. I mean, in that, in that sense, it's a very thrilling fight. It's just a lot of the waiting around I don't care for personally.
Yeah. I feel that.
And so, what's your favorite boss run back in Dark Souls?
I genuinely couldn't come up with a great one, and I don't know, the run back. I don't even know if I really like that mechanic of the games to begin with.
Really?
Because usually it's a pain in the ass because you got to run back through every single enemy all over again to get back to the boss. So I'm not inherently a big fan of that. The process of like repeating the same thing over and over, even though I've played every single Dark Souls game, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, etc., where that's always the thing that they do, which is fine. I've just never cared for having to die at a boss and then run all the way back to the boss.
Oh man,
I don't think I
them.
really like that necessarily. I've never really cared too much for that. But it's part of it. But if I had to pick one, I would just say Gwyn because it's easy as hell to get back to him.
Okay, yeah. Do you fight the knights every time? You just run right past them?
No, I just run up on him.
Yeah, that is it's pretty thrilling, because you never know. I'm like, oh, did I get the roll down just right?
That music is hype though, leading up to Gwyn. That's like, it's pretty nice.
Oh yes, definitely.
When I beat Dark Souls for the first time, man, I talk about the sense of accomplishment. Whooping Gwyn's ass, that was great.
Yeah, did you go with the parry or did you?
I just brute forced my ass through that, man.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't get good at parrying at that point in time. I'm better at it now, but at that point in time, I couldn't do it, so I just brute forced through it, man. I did a lot of blocking and just rolling, and it was a long fight for me, but I made it work.
Yeah, the parrying is surprisingly generous for him with most of his attacks.
He has a pretty good, a well telegraphed wind up. It's not that off kilter for anything. It's easy to know when it's going to happen and how you can do it and so on. But I just wasn't very good at that point. It's
odd how he's the only boss you can parry, and the game doesn't let you know that, hey, sometimes a boss can be parryable, and then all of a sudden Gwen's like, hey, I can be parried.
Yeah.
Do you think they should have allowed?
I thought there were other bosses you could parry in Dark Souls 1. Is there not?
Nope, he's the only one. It's funny. In the Dark Souls strategy guide, every other boss has a tab saying parryable, and it says no all the way down, but except for Gwen, where it says yes, yes, yes.
That's fine.
Do you think
they made it a little bit more common where you could parry bosses in the later games?
Dark Souls 2 has boss fights that are parryable in Dark Souls 2 is very surprising to me. Like Velastat, when I found out you could parry him, I was amazed, and it was that's pretty much the only way I can fight him now is parry him because I just love it so much.
Yeah.
Do you think they should have made Artorias parryable?
Yeah. I think they should have made him parryable because he's a human-sized character for the most part. Like he's pretty close to your size. He's a little bit bigger than you, but not by a lot, right? He's about the same size as Gwen. I kind of get most of the other characters because most of them are not like your size, so it really wouldn't make that much sense. Most of them are quite larger than you when it comes to most of the bosses in the game. That changes later on, obviously. They learned that making more human-sized enemies can sometimes be more challenging in later games, versus everything just being a hulking mass. But Yeah, I do think they should have made Torius parryable. I mean, especially since like that DLC came out after the game, right? That's content that was after the game. They already had Gwen that was parryable, so I don't really see why they didn't have it like that.
Mm-hmm. I really wish the gargoyles were parryable. That would have been a fun fight.
Yeah,
And of course, Ornstein. Or being able, if I could have parried Ornstein, that would have been awesome.
yeah. I'm pretty sure you can. I think you could parry Ornstein in 2.
Oh yeah, you can. Yep. That's actually
Yeah,
one of my most
yeah.
popular shorts. Is when I display me parrying that
Parrying
Ornstein.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty sure you can do it in 3 as well.
With the Dragon Slayer armor.
Yes. Yes. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can. I don't think I think last time I played Dark Souls 3, I wasn't into parrying that much. I believe. No, I think I was just starting to get into parrying because I remember I could parry the Crystal Sage pretty well. That was that actually.
I'm not like super into parrying, but I just kind of go like blunt force. I try to be like quick and agile, but like bulky. But not like but I can move. You know what I mean? That's always been my play style. You said you weren't that into parrying at Dark Souls 3 at that point.
Yeah, after I finished Sekiro, after I finally played Sekiro properly, I finally got into parrying after that.
Yeah, I mean you kind of can't play Sekiro without learning how to parry.
I managed to do so until the end.
Really?
Yeah, but it took forever to kill a boss.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not an adequate way to play.
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely don't recommend it these days.
Literally, movement, parrying, like it's the whole game. That's just like that's what you gotta learn. They try to do it with like early bosses. They try to show you like, hey, this is one approach, this is another approach, and then while giving you like some nuanced, fun little ways to also change it up. Like, you want to use like firecrackers in the Genichiro fight. Is it not Genichiro? Shit, not Genichiro.
Guardian Ape?
What's it? No, the general guy. Yeah,
Oh.
you can use the Guardian Ape, but you can use it with the dude on the horse. I forget his damn name.
Yeah, I forgot his name too.
Boss.
He screams his name too. That should be pretty memorable.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot it. It's on the tip.
Okinawa?
But I'm forgetting it. Yeah, something like that. But you can throw fireworks and it'll like the horse will rear up and then you can do a lot of damage.
Oh yes, that's definitely burnt in my memory. All right, and number 5 we have: has Dark Souls affected your preference in perspective on gaming, or perspective on gaming?
Yeah, I don't think like I was talking to you before we recently talked. I wrote a script that kind of tackles the intricacies of the Dark Souls games that I think most people look over when they're kind of just succumb by the difficulty and the legend and the story behind the legacy of the Dark Souls games, that they really focus on that and don't really pay attention to the intricacies within it. Because I'm a big a person of like an attention to detail and stuff, so I notice all the small things. And there's such a giant just aura of tackling depression and overcoming that within the entire narrative of Dark Souls. It's kind of a little subtle, right? But it's also not that subtle at the same time. So, yeah, it definitely has affected me in that way. As far as preferences for games, no, because I've always been one to play pretty much everything under the sun. I grew up playing so many different kinds of games that I play so many different genres and different kinds of games that it's kind of crazy. Yeah, I have some that I enjoy more than others, of course, but yeah, no, it hasn't changed any preferences, but I think it, alongside a few others like Firewatch and some stuff like that, it helped me at that point in time, in a good while back, to kind of look deeper into aspects of games and kind of like look for things more and theorize more and kind of just get a little bit more engrossed in its world and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember. Dark Souls and Skyrim came out the same year, and I was so hyped for Skyrim, and I was playing it, and then in the middle of Skyrim, I got Dark Souls, and played through Dark Souls. And then Skyrim, I just noticed I was I was looking at Skyrim. I was like, man, I don't know. I'm not enjoying this game like I used to. And then I actually, when I finished Skyrim, I didn't even notice it at first, and I can't remember if the credits come up at some point, but I returned it, and because I was big into trading in games. I don't do that anymore. If I buy a game, I just keep it because I just cherish physical copies so much now. But I remember the GameStop employee was just so, he was like, "What the heck are you doing? You're trading in Skyrim." I'm like, "Yeah, I got Dark Souls, and I just don't know, Skyrim just doesn't do it for me anymore." The guy he was kind of really upset about it.
That's funny. Yeah, GameStop employees are sensitive. I know you gotta be careful. But yeah, no, yeah, Skyrim, man. I played a lot of Skyrim before I played Dark Souls. When I played Dark Souls, it was only like probably 6 months before 2 came out, so or something like that.
Okay, yeah. I know a lot of people seem to jump on board with Dark Souls 3. Seems like most of the time when someone explains the story about how they got into the series, it usually starts with Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, I think it's just because Dark Souls 3 was such a well-marketed, fan-servicey kind of game that had a lot of marketing budget behind it, and Dark Souls had such a following that was created from the first game that just kept growing. And then Bloodborne was huge, and Dark Souls 3 came out after Bloodborne, so there was just so much hype around Dark Souls 3 that it was inevitable that people were going to jump in at that point.
Oh yeah, and of course they borrowed some stuff from Bloodborne as well, like aesthetically.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a little bit more gothic, but it was an interesting fever dream mixture of Dark Souls, of really Demon Souls all the way to Bloodborne. It was basically taking everything in the Soulsborne games that they've ever done and just throwing it into a blender and kind of creating what they made, which actually largely ended up being about as linear as Bloodborne or Demon Souls, more so than intricately designed like a Metroidvania like Dark Souls 1. Even though there were some areas that had that, it was largely like, you went to each individual area like through the bonfire. So I wouldn't say that it had the same magic as Dark Souls 1. I don't think any of the games had the same magic as Dark Souls 1 for that reason. Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 2 and 3, none of them capture the magic of Dark Souls 1 just because I think everything in Dark Souls 1 loops back around on each other and it just has that Metroidvania design where you'll find a shortcut near the end of the game that leads right back to the beginning. There's just nothing like that. Other than Elden Ring, it kind of comes pretty close.
Oh yeah, yeah. There. I know that I was definitely very surprised by plenty of shortcuts in Elden Ring, especially the one that leads into what's it called? It's not the capital, or heck, what's that place called before the capital?
I know what the place you're talking about.
Yeah, but there's
name's not coming to me either. But
yeah, once you defeat Magma Worm Makar, I believe this elevator takes you up into the area. Then it leads to a dragon fight, which you can just walk right by. But I remember loving to see that shortcut. Also the
yeah, because you can go through that one path. You can fight the Magma Worm, and then it takes you up through there. Then you can get there a whole different way than you could the other way.
Yeah, I actually prefer to go that way instead of collecting the seals.
Yeah.
And the other shortcut, the Gal Cave. It's not a shortcut actually. It's just a reveal. It's a place that I've been anticipating to find, and then at the end of the Gal Cave or whatever it's pronounced, it reveals that little cliff edge where the item is at, and I really love that.
Yeah.
All right, question 6. What are your thoughts on self-imposed challenges in Dark Souls? No rolling, no damage, no auxiliary items, no summons, and etc. I noticed I put down summoned. I don't know.
My opinion on that is I think it's necessary for longevity of the games. I think it's an easy way for people to create their own replayability, and I think that's awesome. And I think it's cool. I've seen some crazy cool things, like people beating Dark Souls with a Guitar Hero controller and all kinds of crazy stuff. I personally, I don't really get into that. I don't care about it really. I think it's good for the community. It's good for the games. I don't care for it myself. That's just not a thing that I do. I just play the game. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, one I forgot to put in there was no heads up display. Playing without the heads up display is a very interesting way to play. It adds so much tension all the time because you don't know how much health you got. And I kind of cheat
Yeah,
in a way because I'll press start and look at my status and just to keep
yeah,
track of my health. But still, I like just keeping the screen clear because one thing I really hate about video games, especially now, is how they cloud the screen with so much junk. And I cannot stand to look at stuff I just don't really need
yeah.
to look at.
I think a minimal HUD would work. I don't think it's worth it to like play without your health bar in a game like that because there's no diegetic way of knowing your health.
Yeah.
So it's a huge detriment to your game. But if that's a self-imposed challenge, so
Yeah.
that's fine. In something like Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I play with no HUD because all the way you play is pretty easy to get down, and once you got that, you don't really need anything else. And uh, the your health is on the back of your little robot companion that shows how much health you have. So that being a diegetic way to show your health, that works really well for no HUD, and
Yeah.
it makes the experience like 10 times better for sure.
Doesn't one of the Resident Evil games do that where a character wears a watch? It might be Resident Evil 7, where it shows your health organically. Do you remember?
Um, I don't. Trying to think.
Pretty sure it's Resident Evil 7.
I don't. I don't know. I played Resident Evil 7. I don't know. I can't remember if you have a watch you can look at in that game or not.
That's some kind of smartwatch, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is. I think it's also an 8 as well.
Is it? Okay, I don't remember.
I think so. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that you can use. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I love organic stuff like that. Death Space does the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. The just kind of just simple diegetic stuff is really good. That allows you to feel extra immersed in the world because you don't need a ammo counter on your screen or whatever because the ammo counter's on the gun. That because like if you're gonna go futuristic, why not?
I was thinking about organic ways to do that with Dark Souls, but it's kind of hard to do that without affecting too much of the gameplay. Because I was thinking, why not just do a whole Sif sort of situation where the lower your health gets, the more sluggish your character gets. But I'm like, I don't know. I feel like your character should be kind of peak all the way through up until the end.
Yeah. Yeah, a diegetic way to do health in Dark Souls would be challenging given its fantasy setting.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would say you could probably do like, I don't know, like a thing where even though I don't know, you could. I'm trying to think, it'd be really tough to do. I don't know.
You could have a dragonfly with you, like Spyro.
Yeah, or you could just have like a a three-dimensional like glowing Estus flask on your hip that flashes or something.
Yeah, something like that.
That would work. It's magical fantasy, so I don't think it really would. You don't have too much that you have to like stick by any rules.
All right. Question 7. What would you like to see changed in a modern day upgrade of Dark Souls?
Nothing, because they already did that, right? With the remaster. So
Oh no,
I think
I meant like an upgrade like Demon Souls.
oh, like a full blown like ground up remake.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd still say nothing, I guess, because like the remaster they did of the game, as far as like, I mean, it's 4K, 60 frames per second or higher. Most bugs were fixed. It's smooth as butter. Yeah, the game kind of looks rough, but like it's not bad. I think it has its own visual flair. And if anything, like if Dark Souls ever got the Demon Souls treatment just from a visual perspective, hell yeah, that'd be cool. But FromSoft's not going to do that, and they own the
No.
rights to Dark Souls, so that's not happening.
Yeah, that's kind of a shame because I definitely feel like
I wouldn't even say Elden Ring doesn't even look that much better than Dark Souls. That's just because From Software doesn't really care about graphic fidelity. They care about making a good game.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I'm not a graphics, hog or anything like that. It
Right.
doesn't have to, I mean, I've been playing games like Frogun, and heck, I go back to play PS2 games. But I would
Yeah,
definitely.
I just booted up Time Splitters 2 for the first time in my entire life. So.
Oh, nice. It can't be, a lot of people say, oh, you just like these games because they're nostalgic for. I'm like, man, I'm playing games I never played before, and I think they're better than most games released now.
Yeah, I mean, some people say, oh, all the best games are released now, or all the best games were released 20 years ago. Like, no. Great games were released for the last 40 something years. I mean, you go back to those old PC games like Maze War and Atari Battlezone, and they're not perfect, no, but they're still fun as shit to play. Why do you think they were so popular? Like, they're still fun now. Go back and play Pac-Man right now. It's still fun. Yeah, it doesn't look as amazing as the new Pac-Man, but it's still good. It's go play the original Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I would much prefer to play Mortal Kombat 1, the new one, but the original is still a good time.
Yeah, I mean,
It's some people get so caught up, and especially the more and more that video games become mainstream, people care so much about visual fidelity and everything looking the most realistic and the most this. And I'm like, look, guys, good gameplay and a good art style will make that game live for 20 plus years. If you
yes.
make it look as realistic as humanly possible, it'll look like dog shit in 5.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at a point now in games that we can't go much higher. We can't make games look much better than they look right now. It's not possible. The only thing we can improve now is we can improve render distance. We can improve facial features on a larger scale for more games, because some have good ones, some don't. We can do very minimal things, but we can't really make games look that much better. Because we're at the point now that games released in 2015 still look like they could have been released yesterday.
Right.
So we can't really push graphic quality much further. Now, games that are super stylistic and stuff like that, they can make their games look crazy, for the next 40 years.
Mm.
And VR is starting to get, bigger and bigger. Thankfully, it's taken them long enough. It's been around for more than 20 years and nobody's even really touched it. It's been around longer than that in arcades, and it's always been a niche thing. And it's starting to get bigger. I've dabbled in it because I was able to get a Quest 2 a couple years ago. And it's VR right now is kind of like the 90s for console and PC games. They all kind of look rough, but they're doing some cool and unique things that are going to change games in the next 20 years.
Yeah, and I feel like creativity was definitely, significantly much more, seen during the PS2 days when you didn't, and the PS1 days when you didn't have a whole lot of capabilities that you have now, and people had to think about outside the box on, okay, how in the world are we going to do this? We got to render a certain amount. Well, let's add some fog in there. You had Silent Hill that did that. You have San Andreas, and I thought it was really funny how when the remaster, one of the trilogy remaster for Grand Theft Auto, and they just removed the fog. Like, oh, don't need that anymore. I'm like, nah, man, that was important.
Yeah, no, that's like 90% of the game. It was a technical limitation, but it also became iconic.
Yeah. It's also very
took a technical limitation and built it around into lore, so it's still needed.
It's super weird when you're standing on a building and you can just see the entire map.
You can see everything.
It just breaks immersion. Yeah, it's just awful.
Yeah, I mean, the further you go, like right now, like what they can achieve with VR games, and the smaller budgets, smaller teams, a lot of technical limitations on hardware and so on, they're able to do a lot of creative and interesting things to make things happen that, it's like mimicking what Valve was able to do with Half-Life Alyx, but they're not quite there, but they're doing creative solutions to figure out ways to almost do the same thing. And sure, PS1, PS2, Xbox, every generation of games from way back in the early PC days all the way to now, there's still tons of games on the indie, AA, and AAA space that still do very creative and unique and different things and really stand out from the crowd, but more times than not, they get kind of swallowed whole by these more mainstream games that are largely doing the same thing, but getting a lot more love and care and credit for them than the smaller scale games. You know, and when a game, let's just say like Prey 2017, you know, that's relatively new and it was a big budget game and there's probably not going to be a game quite like that for a long time. The level of detail, love, and care that went into that is not seen very often in AAA games. It's something that really stands out from the crowd. You know, you look at something like Titanfall 2, or you look at, think of something more recent. I would even say Dead Island 2, where Dead Island 2, you know, they put fun at the forefront. They didn't take themselves that seriously, and one of the biggest things that is like the biggest selling point is its gore system, which genuinely, from a graphical standpoint and the attention to detail in the game's world, is honestly pushing the graphical quality above almost anything that released last year alone, and it's not even got as big of a budget. They were just creative about it.
So, okay, I'm glad you mentioned Dead Island 2. What was the biggest complaint about it? Because I can't really seem to find anything where, you know, the game didn't really seem to do very well, but yet I haven't heard why it wasn't received well.
I mean, it was received well.
It was? Okay. I don't hear people
um,
talk about it very often.
yeah, because it's not a game that's gonna stick in the mainstream space. It's not God of War. It's not Call of Duty. It's not when you release in a year as big as 2023. Baldur's Gate and Alan Wake and Spider-Man and Tears of the Kingdom and stuff like that's going to overshadow a triple A budget double A game made by a studio that's last game wasn't that popular in a franchise that hasn't had a game in 12 years. You know, that's going to happen. That's just the industry. That's really everything. It's going to get overshadowed. But every review for the game was anywhere between like an 8 and a 10. It has a pretty like medium like Metacritic score and stuff like that. Everybody who played it, I don't think a single person was like, "Oh, this game's dog shit" or "This game's bad." Everyone said it's a good game or it's a great game or it's an okay game, but no one said it was a bad game. Most people even said that it was probably the most well-optimized game at launch of the entire year, and honestly, in the last 5 years. Because it actually launched without technical problems. It launched without being broken before the day one patch. It launched without all these plethora of issues, and it worked fine on everything it launched on.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, and it does a lot. It's not a game. It's not trying to blow you away or be the next big thing. It's a fun time. It's a great zombie killing adventure with friends or solo. It can be short. It can be long. It's up to you. The gore is phenomenal, and that's like its selling point. And I mean, it does what it needs to do, and it's great.
Yeah, I definitely was intrigued by the gore. I definitely plan on getting it sometime. Whenever the price drops a little bit low enough. I don't know how much
Yeah.
I don't know how much the average price is right now.
Average AAA games like $70.
Well, I mean, just right now, what's it at? It looks like
Like
it's
Dead
at,
Island 2.
yeah, it looks like it's at 40 at Best Buy, 50 at GameStop, $113 at Walmart.
That's interesting. That's probably the Hell A edition.
I don't know. I think it said day one or something.
Yeah, it's the Hell A edition. It's a $100 edition.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I got that one day one. But I'm a big Dead Island fan.
Yeah, I guess I didn't give Dead Island 1 a good enough chance. I think I got impatient with it because I like being thrown right into the gameplay, and I guess the all the story stuff I got annoyed with, so I guess I just stopped too soon.
Yeah, I mean the intro sequence story stuff is only like less than 5 minutes or something.
Okay.
But after that, you're good to go on whatever you want to do. It doesn't take very long to just jump into the game and just explore to your heart's content. You can be finding quests before you even do the first real main mission if you want.
Well, what's the definitive edition? Is it the Riptide edition?
I would say buy the definitive collection. So Riptide is a standalone expansion, which is just basically a sequel.
Ah,
Um, so the definitive collection comes with the remasters of the first game, Riptide, and bundled in there is Retro Revenge, which is a little like side scroller auto runner type thing.
oh, okay, I see it now. All right, I didn't know there was actually a release called the Definitive Edition.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, nice. I'll keep an eye on that one. All right, and all right, definitely. Let's see what you got for this one. What are your thoughts on the Bed of Chaos from Dark Souls?
Oh yeah, I told you I had an interesting opinion on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bed of Chaos. My opinion is that it's extremely overrated and overhated. All people love to do is just complain about the Bed of Chaos. Oh, it's so bad. It's so hard. It's such a bullshit fight. It's wham, 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 wham. Well, here's the thing: is it's really easy once you figure it out. Like it's all you gotta do is run up to those two spots, hit them, done, fight
Right.
over. You just try not to fall through the floor. It's
Yeah.
not hard, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like 90% of the fights in the entire game are trial and error. So you see the glowing things. Video game brain kicks in, hit the glowy things. So if you you only do it the first time, you get it the second time. And all you do as soon as the fight starts, just take off running and then jump into one of those areas, and you're not gonna fall. Or that one area, it's the one, not two. There's one. Yeah, that's all you gotta do.
So, what do you think? What do you think people are mainly upset about with the fight?
The falling floor.
Just the falling floor.
I think that's the issue. I think the issue is the falling floor. It's hard to predict, and I mean, you got to get on. I mean, the fight is literally the goal is to get on the branch and beat the shit out of the thing, and then that's literally that's it. That's the whole fight.
Right, but just hit it once.
Yeah, hey, you just got to go up there and hit it. But,
Yeah, like
I don't know.
I definitely have a lot of things, but I'm going to save it for my video essay because I've discovered so much about it. I will say one thing: you can beat the boss without jumping once.
Like what? Jumping onto the branch?
Well, you can fall onto the branch, but I'm just in terms of the
yeah.
falling floors, you actually don't have to jump over anything.
Yeah, I mean, what I was talking about is like just running and jumping onto the branch.
Yeah, at the very end, yeah, you kind of have to fall onto the branch.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the only kind of hop you have, but you don't have to jump. You can just fall off. But
Right.
while I was messing around with the Bed of Chaos, I found out you actually don't have to jump over any of the gaps.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
I hope people find that interesting once I display how to do it.
I'm sure they will.
But yeah, I was kind of on the hate train for a while, and then a friend of mine, Matthew Manny, showed me a video of him doing it one shot, and I was like, "What the heck? I thought this boss was chaotic, too chaotic to do consistently like that. I thought
Yeah.
speedrunners only had to do the firebomb exploit and so on, but he did it the way it was designed, and I was blown away by it. I was like, "What the heck? How what it he's looking for something consistent because sometimes in the video he waits around for very specific moments, and then after looking into it myself, I'm like, wow, okay, so there is something here, and
Right.
I can't wait to explain everything I found to everybody whenever I eventually get the video out.
Yeah.
So you said it was also overrated?
Yeah, that was. I mean, just the hate around it, I guess, is overrated.
Oh, the
I mean,
hate's
I think
overrated.
It's just,
Yeah, that's
yeah, it's overrated in my opinion. Like, I think people act like it's way harder than it actually is.
and I get kind of tired of that reaction to the Bed of Chaos. Even when he just mentioned it, people are like, "Oh man, that fight sucks," and that's all they want to say. I'm like, "Don't you want to,
Yeah.
at least have a conversation on why?" And they're like, "Well, it just sucks," and
Yeah.
that's it. And I'm like, "Well, I mean, come on. I mean, what about it? Is it fixable? Is there anything you can adjust to it to make it a little bit better?" And same thing with Pinwheel. People are always thinking that they think they're so funny when there's like, "Oh, yeah, Pinwheel. Oh, that's the hardest boss in the game." I'm like,
Has anybody ever said Pin was the hardest boss in the game?
Oh, they just say it, sarcastically.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was thinking, yeah, it's definitely.
That's definitely a boss that I'm trying to figure out how to make it genuinely more difficult. But the boss just kind of lets you steamroll it any way you
I
approach
feel
it.
like he's just like a meme boss though. I don't think he was ever meant to be more than that.
Yeah, and there's been some interesting discoveries about him, like how originally he was supposed to like some kind of gimmick to take more damage off of him was to shoot lightning into the water, and I think they gave up on that partially through.
Right. Yeah, because you don't really need to be able to do more damage to him than you
Well,
already can.
even at SOL level 1, you're overpowered for the fight. I don't know, it's just one of the
Yeah.
most interesting parts of the game where I'm like, why in the world did they just... I mean, you have a... Well, I mean, now in the remaster, they added a bonfire, and I'm like...
Yeah.
Yeah, like, why,
They did, didn't they? Yeah.
why didn't they add a bonfire closer to the bed of chaos? Because that's actually the one run back I can't stand, is the boring run back.
Yeah, when you do die to that one, yeah, it sucks.
And, they didn't, the Bed of Chaos currently has checkpoints. And I feel like if they would have added the bonfire, they could have left those checkpoints out so people can learn more about it.
It does have checkpoints?
Yeah. If you defeat a core and you die, that core stays destroyed.
Huh.
And
so, like, if you die and then you come back, it's destroyed?
yes, exactly. That the boss stays in the phase that it was in when you died.
That's interesting.
Actually, if you destroy the other core, if you destroy both cores and you're sliding down, the firestorm attack will actually occur as you're sliding down.
Huh.
And it just chases you. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is the two cores, yeah.
Yeah, and then at that point, you just pretty much just run in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I never found it to be that bad. But...
I find it also strange. I'm like, the firestorm occurs while you're sliding down. I wonder why they decided to add that. Like, they anticipated you just, sliding down again. I don't know. It's I wish I could ask them that question. I'm like, why in the world did you guys add the fact that a firestorm could occur while you're sliding down? Were you guys, like, hoping that people would restart just so you could show them that?
I don't know. I think sometimes, like, there's a lot of things that are rushed together in their games, like aspects of things. Because, I mean, there's just some things that you're like, I don't even know how you guys left this in here. How did you guys even launch Dark Souls with the, like... with what's it called? Blighttown. Like, how did you launch it with Blighttown? Doesn't even function on like the system it was meant to be played on. It just, you go to Blighttown and your game chugs like hell.
I mean, like on the original release.
Yes,
yeah.
The one that I played on Xbox 360. It chugs like hell. On the remaster version, it's fine.
Yeah.
But the original release, it chugs like hell. Like, you guys release a game, and I mean, and what's funny about that is, like, sure, people complained about it, but back when that game came out, people loved the game so much that, like, they just kind of looked past it. Nowadays, if Dark Souls came out now, people would be like, oh man, Blighttown chugs so hard that makes the game an instant, terrible 0 out of 10 game.
Yeah, it's weird how the remaster is out now and people still complain about Blighttown.
Yeah, but it's nothing now.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's just... I think Blighttown is probably... I don't know, I would say that it's one area that's definitely undiscovered the most. A lot of people don't spend the time to learn about how it runs and how the level design works.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things that you just don't hear people... There's a lot of very interesting things you just don't hear people talking about because they don't spend the time to go over there and look at it. They just kind of rush through and then that's it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, there's a very interesting scenario with a giant in Blighttown where you have a giant, then you have one of those little weird-looking pink guys. And if you run past the giant will chase you down, jump down the ladders with you, and if you knock him down, if he makes it to the platform below you, he'll actually climb up the ladder. He just stalks you through it until you either kill him or he gets you, or you just somehow squeeze past him. It's one of the most interesting scenarios I've had in Dark Souls. It was just that moment, and it's just the shame that no one ever talks about it.
Oh yeah, I agree, 100%.
And one topic I was going to put in my video essay, and it's called eerie areas, and just places that are very dangerous, but you have to spend time slowly killing the enemies to get to those spots. Like with the Taurus demons, you have 6 or 7 of them over there in the lava, and you just kind of have to pull them out and kill them, and then you kind of have to sit there and appreciate that you don't generally have this area accessible because there's time involved with getting to it. And of course,
Yeah.
they don't respond. So once you have them all killed, you can go over there whenever you want to. However, most people are not going to waste their time unless they really want that
No.
chaos weapon or whatever it is. And then you got,
Hey, but it's kind of like most people aren't going to be going after those giants in the damn dark of the abyss in Dark Souls 2.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're basically fighting them blind.
Oh yeah, that's a very interesting scenario where I like I like to hide out in that little cave and kill them because I like getting the giant soul so I can.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's his name? Vendrick. He's a little
Yeah.
weaker.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
The
Also,
more of them you have, yeah.
stuff like that's all the way through the From Software lineup. Just have these very special scenarios of survival and just getting through, and then you go to talk
And
to.
there's a lot of like old school game design and the fact there's so many secrets and stuff like that. It's just like the place where the dragon group or whatever that you join in Dark Souls 1, the what is it called?
The Dragon Covenant.
Like that little yeah, like the little beach or whatever that you find, you go there.
Yeah,
It's very,
Ash
like,
Lake.
ethereal looking. Yeah, Ash Lake, yeah. It's like very ethereal and just like all that. But you don't even have to go there.
Yeah, it's
So like, it's a pretty out of the way place.
that Hydra. That Black Hydra is one of the eeriest enemies in the game. Just their
Oh,
movement
yeah.
is so off to me. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, fighting them is fine. Is simple. They just tack at their heads as they slam into
Yeah.
the sand. But they're just the way they're animated. It's just disturbs me.
It's weird. Yeah.
It's a shame we never get to see them again. It's almost like, oh, I don't want to ruin the eeriness by using better animation.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
But Dark Souls 3 has a very scary looking enemy. It's those little spider werewolf looking things. That you see one in Anne Orlando and another one in the Cleansing Chapel. Those things look just.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they have a weird name too. I can never remember what they're called.
They have a lot of weird enemies in that one.
It has a jump scare too. If you go to collect an item in one room and then you turn around, it's right there. It scares me every time.
One that got me like when I first played the game is like the little weak enemy. You hit them. If you don't kill them quick enough, they turn into the giant monster.
Oh yeah, the Pus of Man.
Yeah. It's actually funny. Dark Souls 2 kind of like copied that idea in a way. There's an enemy in Dark Souls 2, not Dark Souls 2, Dead Island 2. There's an enemy in Dead Island 2 where they're like these just feeble looking, like kind of like really pale, like zombie type people. And they just look really weird, like they're very different looking. And you attack them or whatever, and you don't kill them quick enough. They actually they morph into this giant thing with like a giant like chest mouth kind of thing, and they look like a damn necromorph, and they're terrifying. And it happens before your eyes. It's pretty rough.
I'm sure they have their combustion zombies too, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I figured. I remember what was it called? Left 4 Dead. They had those exploding zombies.
Yeah. They had the suiciders in the first Dead Island. They're called bursters in Dead Island 2.
Seems like every video game has to have their combustion enemy. Like when you kill them, they explode.
Oh yeah, a lot of games have them. Yeah. Gotta have them.
Definitely. But yeah, there's you can make a long video talking about unique encounters with the From Software games in general and other games.
Oh yeah.
Wolverine's Revenge. I found no one. It's it's bittersweet. You kind of have to enjoy some things just to yourself because no one's going to be able to relate to it. But Wolverine's Revenge. I mentioned before that I love runbacks to boss fights, and Wolverine's Revenge only has one run back to a boss. Every other boss you get to save before the boss fight starts, but there's one boss in particular. Have you played the game before?
No, I don't think so. Wolverine's Revenge. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah.
I don't think I played that one.
I highly recommend it. Now, I'm not saying it's flawless. It's got bugs. You're going to run into some weird ones. And but it's a game I first played on the PS2.
X2 Wolverine's Revenge.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I did play it a little bit way back in the day. It's been a very, very long time. But yeah, I played a little bit. I never did beat it or anything.
Oh yeah. I have a few other friends that actually say the same thing. They get to a very particular spot and they just stopped. but it's a very special game to me. I mean, it's definitely, it's one of those games that suffers from being rushed. It was supposed to be so much
Yeah.
more. It was supposed to have 3 more boss fights, from what I understand, and you can actually find the voice files for these boss
Yeah.
fights, and
Nice.
it's just the dream
Yeah.
of it being full. Sometimes I have dreams of the game fully coming out in its full presentation. I'm
Yeah, I
like,
mean, things like that happen. It's like, I beat the Ghost Rider game that was on PS2, which I didn't even know existed until a couple years ago. Um, it was honestly fantastic. It's heavily flawed. It does not hold up well graphically. It's very short, but it was a good time. I liked it. I've never played a Ghost Rider game before, so it was pretty cool.
Ghost Rider. You're not talking about Marvel, are you?
Yeah, the Marvel character Ghost Rider.
Marvel. Okay. What was it for?
Yeah. PS2.
PS2. Oh, there was
Exclusively, well, actually, it's exclusive to PS2, PSP, and Game Boy. And it was
Oh.
released in 2007 after the PS3 came out.
How have I not heard about this one?
Which makes no sense.
Yeah, it looks. It
Has
does.
comic book cutscenes. Has an appearance from Blade, and um, it's pretty good.
Oh.
It's kind of loosely connected to the first movie, kind of a sequel. It has like some of the comic book characters in there, like Marvel's version of Marvel's Scarecrow, and a few other characters in there too. So,
Oh heck, yeah! I'm going to keep my eye out for that one because I'm looking at screenshots and it looks very nice.
yeah, and if you've never played the Punisher game made by Volition, you should play that.
Punish is that also for PS2?
Yeah, PS2 and Xbox.
Okay,
It's also backwards compatible on an Xbox 360,
nice.
and it's amazing. The only reason Saints Row exists is because Volition didn't get to make Punisher 2.
Ah, okay.
It's the same engine, largely the same gameplay. It's a really good game.
Yeah.
A lot of comic book stuff in there, a lot of awesome stuff in there. And then there's also the Constantine game, which is based off the movie, but it's kind of different, is also pretty good.
Do you think Saints Row is over with?
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah.
There's no more Volition. Deep Silver and others ran them into the ground by making them. Actually, Deep Silver and the fans. I think Saints Row fans are just as much to blame for the failure of Volition, because the fans, all they wanted was what Saints Row 2 was, and all Volition wanted them to do is somehow, or all Deep Silver wanted them to do, or whoever investors wanted them to do, was kind of replicate the success of 3. So they were always trying to make something that was like that in a way. Like they were always trying to replicate 3. They kept going in different directions, just trying to make more money because they were being forced to make game after game after game without any break from making Saints Row. I mean, Jesus Christ, they made Saints Row for years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And then the first time they make something different, they basically make the Saints Row version of Agents of Mayhem. I mean, yeah, it is Agents of Mayhem. Saints Row version of G.I. Joe, which is Agents of Mayhem. The first new IP they made in years, and people, act like they're so supportive of Volition, but then they do something that's not Saints Row and they destroy it for no reason. Like, no, it's not Saints Row. They never claimed it was. It's literally just like a crackdown, Sunset Overdrive, old school, like prototype, Infamous, or Hulk Ultimate Destruction style superhero game that is literally the best G.I. Joe game ever made. So.
Wow.
And then that really put them in a good spot. And then they go to make the new Saints Row, and they are forced to basically make the game politically relevant to the current times while also trying to appease both fans of Saints Row 2 and 3, and that just didn't work out for them. And I played it. I bought it not long after release. I bought it at full price. Played the game, beat it, did a good bit of side content. I haven't played the DLC, and I actually had a pretty good time. It has a lot of flaws. There's a lot of issues, but it was actually enjoyable for the most part.
Oh wow. Okay.
So,
Yeah, I think
I did a video on it not long after it came out, and I was like, well, not bad.
Yeah, I played the little. I think it was an hour trial, or maybe it was available through Plus or something. And I think that the character customization was interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember I think I played that game and I turned all the sounds, the sound off and everything. It just sounded really funny. I turned the dialogue off, so
Yeah,
all I heard was just sound effects of people
yeah,
just walking upstairs and shutting doors. I don't know. It was a really funny way to look at the
yeah.
game.
There's a guy who basically kept Saints Row alive all the way up to Volition closing. I haven't watched any of this stuff in just a little bit, um, but he's probably still making some stuff on Saints Row. Um,
Hmm.
what is his name? AJ something. He he was kind of like the only thing keeping that game relevant. He covered every single um, like DLC base game, every update. He's like a mega fan. Yeah, AJTS, AJ Third Street. It looks like he's covering a bunch of other stuff now because like you know, yeah, because you can only do so much with the game that's no longer being supported.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but yeah, it actually looks like he just made a video called "Volition or Back," kind of. I don't know what that's about. I'm gonna have to look at that. Maybe ex Volition devs went ahead and started another studio, which would be pretty cool if they did.
yeah. It's very
Happens all the time.
it's interesting seeing people that continues to play games that were that's just not well known or people just didn't like it when it came out and because when that happens you have the chance of finding stuff that's never been found before. I mean, with mainstream
Oh yeah,
games, a
for
lot
sure.
of stuff is going to be found. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you're just not going to be able to find that's new or interesting to people.
Oh yeah.
And I definitely found some very interesting things from 2023. I mean, a lot of stuff that a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people are like, I don't care about that. But I'm like, am I the first person to find this, or and people are like, oh,
Right.
I don't know. I guess someone's done it somewhere. like,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, definitely if you ever find, I don't know if you still have a copy of Wolverine's Revenge. I definitely recommend trying to play through it because the.
No, I think I rented it as a kid. That's when I played it.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you can get past the well, it's one of those games. Of course, once you play it for a while, you kind of get adapted to the controls, and after a while, some things are a little bit weird and goofy. Um, but anyway, let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So number 9, what is the toughest boss attack for you to evade in Dark Souls?
I'm gonna have to go back to Artorias for that. Just that lunge attack was always a pain for me, especially the first time. I got a lot better with it, but yeah, it was definitely. I'd say that was probably Artorias. I'd say. Um, as far as boss attacks would go, yeah, I'd say probably Artorias. Yeah.
Yeah, Artorias. My pretty much that fight is a little burnt in my memory because I did it. I think I did it without rolling, and I remember that I
Yeah.
had to constantly be walking away and moving my camera manually because I didn't target lock because it's hard to do a no roll challenge with the target. Actually, you can't run with the target lock on in Dark Souls, so you have to have it off. And with that lunge attack, you kind of have to always be at a very specific distance. And I remember that
Yeah.
one would tag me very so often. I would get very frustrated at it. But pretty much, I don't know if you can walk to the side because I know some people they end up finding some kind of weird way to walk to the side to avoid stuff like that. But I don't think I was able to find it personally. I always just kind of stayed at a certain distance, and whenever he performed an attack, I would just punish it, like the somersault. If he does the somersault attack 3 times, that's a punish, and then of course when he
Mhm.
buffs, that's a punish. That's a major punish, um,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
so on. But yeah, I definitely know what you mean. What about the Gravelord Nito sword dance attack? Because I think I love it, but I hate it at the same time.
Yeah, that one is tough. Yeah, that one's.
You kind of have to be
Yeah,
looking at
yeah,
him because the scream, you get the
yeah,
scream, but you also need to be looking at him literally stabbing into the ground because that's when it happens.
yeah,
But
yeah. If you're not looking at them, you're probably not gonna dodge it.
yeah, because I mean, there's like a very particular part of the scream where you kind of like, oh, but
If he's doing the thing, yeah, then
yeah,
you gotta be really aware of that.
I think, I know we're going off topic here, but well, not really, but with Ludwig the Accursed, I think that boss has the best sound cues for what attacks he's about to do. I think that I don't know.
Right.
Well, I don't know when was the last time you played or fought against Ludwig, but like with his charge attack, it's very important to listen to a very distinct roar he does so you can prepare for that.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been a minute, but yeah.
I remember one of my favorite ones was from Castlevania Lament of Innocence. Medusa, before she does this rock attack, she actually curses at you before she does it, and I always thought that was pretty wild.
That is funny.
All right, and did you have anything else to say about that attack from Torius?
No, not really.
Okay.
So.
All right, and number 10. We actually made it all the way through here. What is your least favorite enemy encounter in Dark Souls?
It would be the Silver Knights on the roofs in Orlando.
Oh, okay.
Freaking hate those encounters.
I need the...
You get hit, it's over. You're going to fall into your death. You're going to fall right off. I hate it, but I learned to, dodge them. I just kind of like run like a zigzag. But,
So
they're a pain.
it was more about the initial reaction to it.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of a pain no matter how you do it. It's kind of a 50-50 chance. I mean, if you're not running like a zigzag and know how to do that without falling off the roof, it's pretty challenging either way, in my opinion.
That's another scenario where pairing is very useful.
Right, yeah, you can, yeah.
You get up to the one on the right, and you can just pair. You can kick him, I guess, if you wanted to. But I mean, if he swings at you, then that's it. You can't necessarily roll effectively unless you just roll up against him. But
yeah, that's true.
but really, my least favorite part about that scenario is just leading up to it with those little demon dudes, because they can shoot a freaking lightning spear up and down the slopes, and I pretty much just have to jump around and hope that it doesn't hit me.
Oh it's a pain.
But that scenario with the knights is actually very intriguing, because you kind of sit there at the corner and you kind of wait for that arrow from the right side to hit, and then you just run up, and then you kind of have to listen for a sound, because you don't have to run or roll to avoid the arrow from the knight on the right. You can just walk and it'll miss you. But it's great.
It's pretty slow projectile, but you gotta time it just right, and you gotta listen for him to pull back the string.
Right, exactly. And you also had to listen out for a sound cue from the one on the left. I mean, you can definitely hear the distance of the one on the right compared to the one on the left.
Once you get up there, they're not that bad to really like dispatch, but getting to them sometimes can be a pain if you're not timing it properly. And listening for those sound cues and such. Yeah,
that's a scenario that definitely comes up a lot with people. Like, oh man, I hate these knights. I'm like, well, just run up there and parry the one on the right, and you'll be fine.
Right.
It's fun. I made a funny video where I say how to master the Orlando Knights, and I run up there and I parry perfectly. I avoid everything, but I jump off and I slip off the railing at the end.
That's funny though.
But I also did the same thing with the beams, where I show how to master the beams in Orlando, and it shows me perfectly running through those beams. I'm just running, and everything's going very, very well. And it wasn't planned what happens at the end. I think I miscalculated jump, which actually I don't go to the very end anymore. I actually just jump straight to the fog door now. But I end up slipping, and I go through that little pathway, and I always forget there's another one of those guards there. Sanctuary Guardian, I think. No, that's a boss. One of those dudes in the white robes. I forget that he's standing there. The Dark Souls has a bad habit of just really bad backstab registering windows, and he ends up getting a backstab on me, and I just die. And I was like, well, that's perfect for the video, because I did something similar to Orlando, where I died by slipping off the railing after I mastered a scenario, and then I just end up dying at the end. I just it's just unexpected.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So what about in Dark Souls 3 with the archers? Do you think that one is a little bit better, or not as interesting?
In Orlando?
Right, yeah, because you get several more archers in that scenario.
Yeah, I don't remember it being as bad in that one. I think because like the way they built the rooftop and stuff was a little bit wider. There was a little bit more room for error than there was in the original.
Yeah, and it's kind of a random spot for them to put one of the upgrade materials, where once you have it, you have access to all, to buy as many as you want. And it's just...
Yeah.
I wonder if that's some kind of nod saying, hey, you get some reward for doing this time.
Yeah. Maybe, because, you didn't really get much reward the last time.
You said you haven't played Dark Souls in a couple of years?
Yeah, it's been a while since I last booted up any Dark Souls.
Okay.
At least 2 years. Minimum.
Or do you know if there's any shortcuts you just don't take anymore, like some that you used to do all the time? but just don't anymore, or at least in the last time you played.
What is it? What was the question?
Oh, sorry. Shortcuts. Like, where are there any shortcuts you just pretty much just don't do anymore? If you remember, like for example, I used to open up the Anne Orlando doors leading to Smo and Ornstein, but that's one of the first shortcuts I ever cut out because it was just a colossal waste of time.
Yeah. I don't. I'm trying to think of any that I did. No, I can't really think of any right off the top of my head. No, but I'm sure there were several that I didn't really worry about later in like playthroughs and stuff. Like the one you're talking about with Ornstein and Smo and some stuff like that. Some that are just kind of pointless. Some shortcuts that don't really matter. There's no reason for you to. I mean, especially in a repeat playthrough, there's a lot of them that just you don't really have to worry about or need really.
Hmm. And what was the most recent From Software game you've played? Was it Elden Ring?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the last one I played was Elden Ring. Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Um, I think I played a little bit of it last year. Yeah,
Okay. Are you
sometime in
waiting?
the middle of last year.
Are you waiting again for the DLC to come out before you get back on?
Potentially, yeah. Um, Probably. I'll probably definitely jump on when the DLC comes out.
Yeah, because right now it feels like Elden Ring is a bit unfinished now. Ever since they've released the DLC, I'm like, I don't know if I want to play until they release the DLC because who knows how much they're going to
Right.
change.
Yeah, it'll probably come. It'll probably come out this year, I'd say.
Do you think? I mean, with the amount of time it's been taking, do you think it'll maybe probably be about the same size as Elden Ring? Because they might as well should have just made a second one, you know?
I don't know. I mean, if we're lucky, it'll be a pretty big ass expansion. Hopefully.
Yeah, I was hearing rumors about it being bigger than Dark Souls 2, and now I'm hearing it's almost the size of Elden Ring itself. I'm like, well, my goodness, what in the world are they? How are they? Are they just? I'm really hoping they don't add a simple little portal that you go to another area. I really hope they kind of just drop something on top of the vanilla game and just changing it entirely. Because
Yeah.
so many.
Just add a whole other like map that's just floating above the regular one.
Yeah, just add
Just
rings, kind of like
yeah.
how the Dragon Slayer from Dark Souls 2, how the
Yeah.
platform
Yeah.
starts out small. You could say the DLC for Elden Ring just adds more to the arena.
Yeah. 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 I
Uh,
think you could do something cool like that. I mean, they also have a lot of like space outside like the main map, like that one location you go to, the windswept whatever place where you fight whatever I can't remember that dude's name. Um, there's like there's space out there where they could just like, ooh, a new island just floated in, like that they could do or something like that.
I
So
would I would love to see something like a planet ramming into Limgrave, and you just go to the other world there.
that'd be cool as hell. I could see it, man. I could see that happening.
Yeah, like defeating Radon and everything, and causing
Yeah.
some stuff to come in that he was protecting that area
Yeah.
from.
I mean, like a whole freaking like asteroid flew to the and created a whole nother like shortcut to another part of the game because there's practically a whole nother world underneath Limgrave. So
Yeah, they've left themselves open for just about anything. I remember when
yeah,
before the game came out, I was really hoping for a lot more ocean stuff, and we got a good
yeah,
decent amount. Like, you got the giant crayfish, you got the octopus,
oh yeah,
which you can actually, I didn't, you can actually decapitate their tentacles like you could in Dark Souls. I thought that was interesting. Nothing really happens.
oh
They
yeah, yeah.
they just can't attack you for a little bit.
Right,
They
yeah,
regenerate. Um, but I remember when the game came out, I had so much fun just using the self-imposed challenges, and then just kind of creating other little interesting challenges like um, the somber smithing stones. What kind of is there a boss for every single somber smithing stone? Unfortunately, there's not. You kind of had to pick and choose. Like, all right, well, I'll make him the boss of the somber smithing stone, and I like
right,
how
right,
they hide away the smithing stone 7, and you have to defeat the Godskin Noble in order to get to it, and
oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, you can
yeah,
get 8 and 9. Very,
hmm
all you gotta do is just go to Kayla, and you get 8 and 9,
yeah.
and then you can go to Moog's Palace and get the final Summer Smithing Stone, and
I just loved how big and expansive and intricately designed that whole game was. Honestly,
yeah, and I, I find it very amazing that people say, "Oh, it's one of the emptiest open world games I ever played." I'm like, Are you?
Yeah, I don't know what they've been playing,
I
but
don't know. I mean, a lot of people say, "Man, well, Breath of the Wild was full of more stuff than Elden Ring." I'm like, I don't know. I played Breath of the Wild, and I didn't really find a whole lot of stuff.
yeah, I'll be honest with you. Like Breath of the Wild is a good open world game and a good game, but it's not alive. It's definitely not lived in.
Yeah,
Like Elden Ring is definitely more lived in. There's actually like wildlife, and there's like, there's a lot of towns and like different things going on, and like locations you go to and other NPCs that you'll run across and so on. And there's like side quests and little. There's a lot in Elden Ring. Breath of the Wild doesn't have a lot of. There's actually a lot more empty space in Breath of the Wild than there is in Elden Ring, with
yeah.
nothing in it.
I've tried getting into Breath of the Wild several times. It was actually the first Switch game I got, but every time I try to play it, I always end up in areas that doesn't have anything, and I
Right.
just get discouraged by doing that. But yeah, the wildlife in Elden Ring, I like how they originally had stuff like that for Demon Souls. They had deer, and
Right.
I forgot what the other wildlife stuff was. I mean, they had bear warriors, and I would love to see that stuff come back eventually. I was really hoping that the PS5 release of Demon Souls would bring the Archstone back, but Blue Point stated that they didn't feel worthy enough. Basically, it's.
Right.
But I still want to see it. I don't know if we ever will, but
We'll see.
there's a lot of
Possible.
very interesting enemies that was scrapped. I mean, Bear Warrior. I mean, I guess you can basically say we saw that with the Lion Warriors in Dark Souls 2. I like to think of it that way,
Yeah.
but they seem so much smaller compared to what the Bear Warrior was going to be, and um, I guess you could say that those little glob-looking dudes, those thin glob-looking guys, you could technically say that those are the humanities from the Dark Souls DLC.
Yeah.
You can really just pick and choose what where the inspiration was. Of course, the games throughout they're heavily inspired by so much from the past games. Like
Yeah. It's a topic for another podcast, but I think all the Soulsborne stuff is connected. I think even Sekiro fits in somewhere.
yeah, I even stated that I wish that one of the
The From Software verse.
right, exactly. I wish I was really hoping that Elden Ring would have an ending. And by the way, the DLC could very well bring in more endings for the vanilla game. But just like how they
Oh yeah.
brought in an alternate cutscene for Sif, if you go into DLC and destroy, well, I don't know whatever point activates the alternate scene in the DLC, but you go back and of course you have Sif that's sad to fight you. But
Yeah.
Elden Ring could very well add some more alternate endings, and I would love to see one of the endings where after you defeat Elden Ring, you're actually thrown out of the out of an Archstone from Demon Souls, and it breaks.
Right.
I think that would be so cool. I know a lot of people would love to see something like that.
It would be interesting. I mean, I wouldn't count them out from it, but yeah. All
Um,
right.
so
I think I think it's about time to wrap it up
all right, sounds good, and
because yeah.
I hope you join me again sometime.
Oh, for sure. I'd love
Um,
to be back on again. Thank you for having me this time.
oh
I'd
yes,
love to come back
definitely.
anytime.
I saw your collaboration with Storm, and then I saw your
Yeah.
podcast with Storm. I'm like, oh man, this guy's a friend with Storm, and we seem to agree with a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
especially with Evil West. I was so glad to hear you mention Evil West because I still need to get it. I need to find it somewhere.
Yeah. Evil West is a good one. I had a good time with Evil West.
It's funny. It was right before I canceled my PlayStation Plus. It's available on PlayStation
Oh
Plus.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
ah
yeah.
man, if I wasn't
Just missed it.
yeah, if I wasn't so upset with PlayStation right now, I mean, I would definitely be playing
Yeah.
through it. But all right, if you don't mind just staying on a little bit longer after we end it, that'd be great.
Yep.
And we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Once again, I appreciate you coming on, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, man, for sure.
All right.